Matt Bloomfield's unbeaten start to his Oxford United tenure has come to an end with a 2-0 loss against Birmingham City at the Castad. Will back with us to discuss this game. Will, it was not a good game of football on the whole, but I believe you were doing something much better with your time than watching the Oxford.
I was doing airsoft actually, so I spent the weekend getting shot at by little pellets, and I think I still had a better time than I would have had at Gassam because while it was a much improved performance, it just seemed like quite a dull afternoon, and
Yeah,
not the best game of football, and it was just two sucker punches that killed us really. So that's pretty much it really.
it
Not
is.
the
Yeah.
not the best game, but yeah, I know
Before
we'll
we
get
go
into it.
to Yeah, definitely. Before we
Sorry.
go any further, viewers, please like, comment, and subscribe. Really helps out the channel in the algorithm and would boost our mood from that shocking display. The increasing engagement's been really, really good to see because we work really hard at this podcast to try and bring you a different eye on our football club than a lot of the other Oxford United podcasts try and give. So we very much appreciate all the support. Let's get into it then. The lineup that Matt Bloomfield fielded, it was an interesting one, Will. Jamie Cumming in goal. It seemed to be the 3-4-3 maintaining with Sam Long, Kieran Brown and Ben Davies. And then you had Spencer and a return for Matt Phillips in the wing back, spacing with, of course, Cameron Brannigan and Jamie McDonnell in the centre of the park with Stan Mills, Miles Butt Harris, and Mark Harris retaining their spots up top. I won't lie, mate. When that lineup came out, I was a little bit concerned. Obviously, there's a
Mm.
number of players missing from that lineup. Of course, Brian de Keersmacher, no room on the bench. It seems he's picked up an early knock. Is John Jin Woo. Um, so it was already looking like we were going to be up against it with that lineup.
Yeah, I wasn't as concerned if I'm being honest because I think we all had concerns before the Leicester lineup came out, and then you see how that turned out. So I think I was sort of trying to think in terms of that regards, and also I was pretty happy to see Matt Phillips come back because it felt like he was really he had a lot of stick from Oxford fans, but then just before he got injured, he really started to improve a lot. So I was quite looking forward to see what he had to offer.
Mm.
I think for me, the thing that like stuck out for me was that it was a bit disappointing to not see any of the new signings get get their debut for the club. Like you said, Urgent Moo's been injured, which is pretty frustrating considering that we just signed him. I mean, Pert Harris and McDonnell, it's always good to see them in the lineup, but I'd like to see a few more of them sort of come out from the off.
Mm.
But I wouldn't say I shared your concerns. It wasn't an amazing lineup. I wasn't like wowed by it, but I still thought it was decent enough to beat Birmingham. Because like I said, because we had concerns about the Leicester lineup, and that turned out quite well. So I was sort of hoping it'd be a similar thing here.
True, true. Um, Obviously, looking at the bench, there's a very notable addition. Big congratulations to Mo Misanga, a young winger who come out of obviously our youth ranks, on the bench for the first time. Didn't get on the pitch, which I think, given what the game state was like late on, maybe was a mistake from Bloomfield. But good to see that Bloomfield is looking at the youth to give them an opportunity when we've got first team bodies not available.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the game was pretty much like it was a pretty obvious we weren't going to get into it, so it would have been nice to see him get a run out at some point. But I think for him, just being in the matchday squad would be a huge experience. Would be a brilliant experience for him. So hopefully, we'll be able to see him at some point because I'm sure he's got a lot to offer. There's no other reason why the academy wouldn't have promoted him to the first team.
100%. So, let's talk about that first half because the opening quarter of an hour, we were quite good. We were creating chances. I think Beadle, if I remember, made two or three saves from opportunities. And it felt like, in the moment, if we didn't get that goal, what ended up happening would happen in the fact that Birmingham would get a goal with their increasing presence in that game, and Sucker Punch would pretty much knock us out of the possibility of getting 3 points in that game, or even a single point as it turned out to be. We've seen that quite a lot this season, haven't we, Will, in terms of we have bright opening quarter of an hour and we can't capitalise, and then one Sucker Punch and the game's gone.
Yeah, I think it's the same story again, that like we don't take the chances that we make, and considering the fact that we're a team that's so low down in the division, we need to start taking whatever we can snatch at, really. Um, I think if we got if we'd scored at least one or even maybe two of the chances that we'd had in that opening quarter, then it would have been a completely different game of football. But like you said, we didn't take our chances. We just, the thing that stuck out to me most of all is that it was that final ball, which I know we've said time and again this season. It was that final ball, that final bit of quality that we just didn't have, and Birmingham obviously had it in their squad. And then with that, once another miss, it starts to ratchet up, and then all it takes is one scrappy goal to put us on the back foot, and it completely deflates the atmosphere, completely deflates the squad, and then it just sort of went downhill from there. But again, it's the same story again. We don't take our chances.
Yeah. I think it's quite telling that across the 90 minutes we had 10 chances. 4 of those came in that opening 15 minutes when we were looking so bright and so positive. I'm not going to complain too much about the referee, because in situations like that you had on Saturday, the referee will manage the game as he sees, and the players have to kind of deal with it. The referee was wrong to give the free kick in the area he did. It should have been right on the touchline. That's where the Birmingham man was fouled. But at the same time, maybe we've got to be better defensively to simply see that out and not make a bit of a rash challenge, a bit of a kind of panic. When someone gets to the byline, we're thinking, we can't allow the cross to go in, so let's just try and take him out. Ball's whipped in from the free kick, and it deflects off Miles Harris's backside, and really unfortunate for him. He's been a presence in the area for our set pieces, but it's horrible, bad fortune that his first Oxford United goal is an own goal.
Yeah, I don't think we can really blame him too much, because it would have either gone in off him or would have gone in off the Birmingham player who was stood behind him.
Yeah.
I think the only player who can really sort of look at in that situation was Jamie Cumming. The goalkeeping was a bit questionable, him sort of pushing it right into the danger area. But then again, it's just one of those scrappy goals where the ball's just sort of pinging about the 6-yard box and you don't really know where it's going to land. And it was just unlucky for us that it happened to be that it landed in our net. So, but yeah, it just with regards to the referee, yeah, it shouldn't have been a foul, but like it's not like it was a really close game and we got robbed by a poor decision. I think we would have lost it anyway, to be honest. But yeah, it was just unfortunate that it just happened to be an unlucky goal to concede that completely killed whatever momentum we built up during the game.
Again, a notable thing is after that at that point of the game, Birmingham hadn't had a shot in that first 25 minutes. When that goal goes in, then they start to increase it. Again, of the 11 opportunities they had, I think I counted 5 came in the immediate aftermath, in the immediate 10-minute aftermath of the ball hitting the back of the net off Miles Harris. So it was a game of poor quality from both sides, and the fact that they weren't really creating an awful lot in the attacking phase, that then they get a bit of luck off that set piece, switches the momentum of the fixture, and ends up taking it away from Oxford United. I want to give a bit of, we don't always give credit to opposition players, but Osman, Birmingham's number 17, was electric. He was giving Brodie Spencer so many issues down our right-hand side, and just his electric pace, it was so difficult to deal with. Big credit to him. Like I said, we don't like to give opposition players too much praise on this show, but you have to say the way he caused problems for the backline was it's what we're hoping John Jim Woo will be able to do, because so far the other wingers haven't been able to do that.
It's the kind of player that we'd love to have at Oxford United, but unfortunately we can't spend £15 million in a January transfer window. So I think the chances of us acquiring someone like that are somewhat slim. But yeah, he was absolutely brilliant to watch, and I hope our wingers are taking notes, because you have someone like that in your squad and they can completely change your season, especially when you're so low down. I will say one thing is that when we were attacking, or when we had our positive quarter, and then Birmingham sort of like knocked it all out of us, I still feel as though we are like leaps above what we were when we were under Gary Rowett. Because I think you could just see in the way we attacked, we just moved with more purpose. Like we had more of a plan when we were going forward. It was just again the same thing that we said all season. It was just that final ball or that final shot not hitting the back of the net or not finding the striker. That's where I think the problem lies. But I think like that quarter, and I think the game overall, the reason why I'm not really that upset about this game, obviously I'd love to win it, is because I still think that we're like leaps and bounds above what we were under Gary Rowett, because there was just more attacking intent within the squad. We just couldn't take our chances, which is something that like we need to sort ASAP, because like the position that we are in the league, like you can't have 4 chances in 15 minutes and not take one of them, because then obviously what will happen to us is just going to happen again, and we were not going to get anything out of football games. But that's just what I want to say. I still think that there is still improvements being made on what we had in the Gary Rowett.
I think you're right in the sense of I have a little bit more faith in us to be able to get back into games than I did under Rowett. That being said, I am starting to get concerned. We'll talk about this more in a little bit about our position in the table, our chance of survival, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But I'm starting to get a bit more concerned about our chances for the rest of the campaign. Second half, we didn't look to improve an awful lot. Birmingham continued a very bright spell, and Carlos Vicente, who again came on and looked really decent for Birmingham, sets up Dukes for a second goal for Birmingham City, kills off the game. Questions for me on the defensive organisation, because Vicente he's able to jink and jive through our defence, and no one's following the run of Birmingham's big man, and he slides it past Jamie Cumming for 2-0. At that point, game was over, wasn't it? Well, that was kind of signed, sealed, delivered.
Yeah, the game is done at that point. The atmosphere is completely flat, and you just know that the team's not going to get back into it, which is a shame. I think sort of the way that Birmingham started the second half was a bit like how we started the first half. They came out flying. They had some really good moves, and I'm thinking to the one where the guy somehow hit the post just after the second half started. I don't know how that didn't go in the back of the net. Sort of like moves like that. Just like they came out with the momentum, but the difference between us and Birmingham is they had the quality to actually have something on the end of it, i.e. a goal, or what almost certainly should have been a goal. And when that second goal went in, you knew we're not going to get back into this game, because even if we have another period of momentum, it's clearly luck. It's almost as if like luck isn't on our side today. We're not hitting the back of the net, and that is why I think that the momentum just went flat, and so did the atmosphere, unfortunately.
Yeah. So from that point, the boys slightly reacted. There was a bit of contention about it in the East Stand on Saturday, because it felt like the lads were running harder at 2-0 down when we were 1-0 down, which questions perhaps needs to be asked about that. But we had a good opportunity late on, I think it was like 80 odd minutes, when long throw, ball in, and Lancashire does really well to put it across to Ole Romane, and James Beadle denies a late goal for his former club. Gutting in that instance, because it was, probably our only bright spark of that second half. On the flip side, Birmingham could have had a third when Ben Davies doesn't almost half-arses his defensive duties in the 96th minute, and Jamie Cumming has to make a save. But like we mentioned, that was kind of signed, sealed, delivered, the 2-0 win for Birmingham. And we're in a situation where we're going, we were beginning of the week looking at 5 points from a possible 9. We're now 5 from a possible 12. It could get worse and worse with a big week of fixtures coming up, Will.
Yeah. Losing this game is it's frustrating because we lost, obviously, but it was such a good opportunity to build momentum. Our first, 2 2 wins in a row for over a year, which is crazy to even have to like the fact that we've had to go through this. The fact that Birmingham, they are improving, albeit slowly, and they are sort of inching their way up the table, but away from home they've been rubbish. I think I heard something like out of 10 losses, 9 of them have been away from home. They can't seem to win away from home. They can't seem to score away from home. So you'd sort of think that, coupled with the momentum from the Leicester game, coupled with hopefully a brilliant atmosphere at the Kassam, should have brought us over the line, or should have at least meant that we could get something from the game, but we just weren't able to. And it does no favours for our position in the league as well, because I'm still hopeful. I'm always hopeful. I think I'll be hopeful until it's mathematically impossible, because I'll always think, oh, we're Oxford United, something can happen. We'll get a good run of form at some point. But, it's starting to dawn on me that the only team that is somehow worse than us in the table is a team that's on -7 points. We are 5 points away from safety. And we got Sheffield on Tuesday, which is going to be a tough place to go to. Coventry after that, which again, stupidly, I still think we can get something out of that. Of course we can. So it's not looking promising, but it's not over until it's over. There's still time to go to the end of the season, and I still think all it takes is one decent run of form. Finally a bit of luck getting on our side. Finally, maybe we can get a penalty, which we haven't done in about 200 years, and maybe that will help turn our fortunes around. And I think that's why the defeat to Birmingham, it wasn't like the defeat itself. It wasn't a terrible performance, but it's just the fact it was a lost opportunity to build momentum, and so we're sort of like back to square one again. And we have to sort of build momentum again at Sheffield, which, like I said, is a difficult place to go to. And then Coventry, which is even worse.
Yeah, got to try and pick ourselves up and dust ourselves off. Obviously, we're recording this on the 1st of February. There is a day left of the transfer window. Oxford United have made yet another addition, bringing in 21-year-old Congolese centre-half Christ Mokoso, from Luton Town on a loan with an option to buy at the end of it for around £3 million. 6'4", 21-year-old, as I said. He's an interesting centre-half in the sense that he moved to Luton last season after obviously they just come down from the Premier League, and he's still adapting to life in English football. He played 13 games last season, has played 11 this campaign, 10 of those being starts. He hasn't started or featured in either of Luton's past 2 fixtures. And looking at the online reaction to this, Will, Luton fans are frustrated that he's been allowed to depart because they obviously see a lot of quality in him. Bloomfield apparently liked him in his time at Luton Town. The only slight concern is that apparently at the minute he's not the best player on the ball, but the fact that Bloomfield has brought him back under his management means he, as a manager that wants to play out from the back, clearly thinks he can develop Mokoso quite a lot.
Yeah, I don't think he's not Luton's best player this season, so it's not like we've nabbed like an absolute superstar, but I feel like he's someone who hasn't quite shown his potential in English football yet. Not that he hasn't been given the opportunity. So, and I think the fact that Matt Bloomfield obviously worked with him in his time at Luton and obviously sees that there's something about him and thinks that he's good enough for the Championship, I think should give us a little bit of hope. I don't like his performances thus far have been decent, but it's it hasn't been like fireworks. But like I still think he's got more to show. Like you said, he's still adapting to English football, and hopefully this is the club where sort of he can like really grow into his role and really be an asset for the football club. My only worry is that like that's the sort of player who we're not relying on, but who we're sort of hoping on when we're in a relegation fight. A player who's still adapting to English football. I don't know. It doesn't really inspire me with much confidence. But then again, the fact that like Matt Bloomfield obviously worked with him, and obviously still think he's got more to show, which I think he does. I still think he's a decent football player. Should I think sort of calm some fears. So I think I'm looking at this and I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm not leaping out my chair, but I think, okay, well, he could be something pretty good. Clearly, Matt Bloomfield, he knows him better than I do. He clearly thinks he's got something about him.
So we look at the current transfer situation. We've now got 7 loans in the building. You can only have 5 registered in a Championship squad, so you'd expect that Ben Davies and Philip Krastev's time in OX4 will be coming to an end. which I think for both is unfortunate. Ben Davies was speaking in the week that he's not had as many minutes in Oxford as he was hoping. Obviously, that coincided when he came in. He got a knock, then Kieran Brown came back, and it's hard to dislodge the best centre-back from last season. So Makoso is probably more likely to be slowly bled in and given time to develop as a footballer. Obviously, there's also the situation where we're now a bit better physically in defence because obviously, you know, Makoso 6'4", Helic 6'3", 6'4". You know, and then obviously you've got the jumping merchants that are Greg Lee and Sam Long and Brodie Spencer and, you know, Jamie McDonald a bit further forward. So there is, I can see we're trying to slightly change the profile of the defenders that we've got at the football club.
Yeah, I think with regards to the loan, I don't think Ben Davies has really been given the opportunity here, but I just think the circumstances have really dictated that situation. Like you said, he got an injury and Kieran Brown came back. And I think I'm right in saying that he was only brought in to be a replacement for Kieran Brown because we thought he was going to be out for quite a while. So obviously when Kieran Brown comes back, he's not going to get any minutes, is he? And with regards to Filip Krastev, I think I'm more sad about this than most of the Oxford fans because I had high hopes for him. I thought he could be brilliant. I thought here's our tricky winger and he's going to be going in and out. He's going to be scoring goals. He's going to be whatever, but it hasn't really amounted to much, which is a shame. And with regards to this player, I can't. His name just left my mind. Sorry. Like you said, like increasing like the sort of the physical stature of our defence. That is obviously a good thing. And if like you said, he probably won't be going straight into the starting 11, but he'll be given time to develop. So, and there's an option to buy at the end. So it's a like I said, I'm cautiously optimistic. It's a decent deal for the football club. I'm not leaping out my chair. I'm just cautiously optimistic.
So if we look at the remainder of the window, because obviously our next podcast will be after the window has finished, there's talk of a new left-back coming in. Oxford have been in conversations with Blackburn, reportedly over their out-of-favour left-back. I can't remember his name. It's just gone from my mind just then. Also talks potentially of a new striker, but we'll have to wait and see on that because that is on the proviso that Nick Prelec isn't back from his recovery from his surgery as quick as the club were hoping. Obviously, tomorrow's going to be much more about departures. We've heard reports, obviously this surfaced more last week before the Leicester game of Greg Lee potentially off to Bolton. At this point, it just seems they're trying to build half our promotion team because obviously they signed our beloved Ruben Rodriguez on Friday night, which brought a tear to my eye. So obviously the likes of Sparky, whether his situation has changed at the football club after the performance against Leicester, we don't know. There's obviously the likes of Siriki Dembele, Tom Bradshaw. I don't believe that Shemi Poheta will be leaving the football club tomorrow because we talked about it, that there was a deal in place reportedly for him to go back to Poland on a 6-month loan and then he'd sign a 3-year contract. Now that seems to have been slightly impacted by the fact Shemi at the beginning of the month had a little bit of a knock, so he didn't feature and that affected the deal reportedly, so it doesn't look like Shemi's going to be departing anytime soon. Any other bodies you think would be wise for the club to maybe find new homes for, whether it be on a permanent basis or a loan?
I don't know. I can't, like, names like Plaheta, like Siriki Dembele, like Bradshaw, they come to mind. I just think there is a lot of baggage in the squad that these players will come on the pitch and it don't really inspire confidence. I mean, I know Plaheta he can fire in a rocket every now and again, but we've spoken a lot about how we're frustrated by the decisions he makes on the pitch. With regards to Dembele, it's the same thing. You know, him taking too many touches. He's very tricky, but that's really about it. When he comes on, you're not thinking, oh, here we go, here's our goal scorer. Tom Bradshaw, when he comes on, you know, I'm not there thinking, well, he's going to get a hat trick now. Brilliant, we've won this. Like, he really puts the effort in, obviously, but like he doesn't really offer much in terms of goals, which is what you kind of want in a striker, isn't it? So I think there are quite a few people in the club who would be much more they'd be much better used to the club if they were spending the season elsewhere, spending the rest of the season elsewhere, preferably on loan. And like with regards to Mark Harris, I would actually say keep Mark Harris, because I think he showed signs at Leicester that he was starting to sort of get back into his rhythm. And if he can do that, then we know that Mark Harris in form is a brilliant striker. And also him and Lancashire having sort of competition for that role at the top, I think could sort of push them both on. I think Mark Harris has also come out and said that he really enjoys his time at Oxford anyway. So I'd be surprised if he leaves. And I'm almost quite tempted for him to stay. But I think there are a lot of bodies in the club. Like I said, their time would be better spent elsewhere, because they're not really adding much to our squad really, and they don't really inspire much confidence when you see them sort of coming onto the pitch, or even worse, in the starting 11. So I do think there are a lot of people we can make use to get rid of.
There are a couple of names, the likes of Stefan Negro, the likes of Jordan Thornley, James Golding, who were all.
I mean, I didn't even think of these players, because I thought these players were already out. Like, I didn't even know they were still in our squad. Okay, yeah, fair enough. I mean, these are more players to add to the list then.
So they had their loans terminated at the beginning of the month due to various injury issues, and I think Golding was a case of he wasn't getting football. Yeah. From what I've been told, both Negro and Golding are out for extended periods of time, so they're unlikely to be going back out on loan to finish a campaign. I should also mention that the prevailing link for Tom Bradshaw is that our old gaffer Carl Robinson will be taking him to Salford, so that'd be much appreciated, KO, if you can do that. We know you always love the Ox and look out for us, mate. Other links in the window have been, unsurprisingly, a lot of former Luton players, I should say. Isaiah Jones has been linked, but that came out on Friday and has been quickly kind of dealt with. Luton not looking to allow him to depart. There was also obviously the link to Edmondson, a Faroese centre half at the site, currently top of the Polish First Division. Now, there was competition from ourselves and Hellas Verona, and I believe that with Makoso coming in, that spells that Edmondson has decided he wants to go to Hellas Verona, play in Serie A. It's a big opportunity for a player like that. So it's a shame that we couldn't get that deal over the line, but it's good to see that, Waldron has obviously got an enormous list of players that that we're looking into. Thanks very much, Tigers. We saw on that Instagram video. But any other thoughts about the transfer situation? Obviously, like we mentioned, the club are looking into potentially a new left back, potentially a new striker. Are there any areas you think we're particularly missing?
Areas. I think he isn't even an area. It's again that thing I've said before of a problem solver, the player who can get. He like the player who he is the plan. He is the man who's going to work that ball and who's going to find that pass to the striker, who can put it in the net every once in a while. I know that's what you want in every player, but I think that's what we need, a problem solver, like a player like, because our attacking intent has got a lot better under Matt Bloomfield than it was under Gary Rowett, but it's still that final ball that I think we're missing. So I think that's the sort of player that I want us to sign. With regards to transfer window, I know we'll probably review it when it's over, but I actually think we've done pretty well in this transfer window. We brought in some really quality players like Jim Wu, Pert Harris especially. He gives me a lot of hope. I think he's done really well. Anything beats the transfer windows that we had in the Carl Robinson, where we were just signing anyone just on the fly. Also, I think it's nice that that we are still looking at Europe. I know this was something that was. Gary Rowett spoke a lot of that. Oxford United are sort of looking at the European leagues to sort of see if they can get new players, and obviously that was made true with some of the signings they brought in, because there was a bit of a worry that when Matt Bluefield came in, our focus would shift from Europe and purely to players that were used to play for Luton that he already knew. So it's nice to see that we're still sort of keeping our options open. But I still think, for me, again, I can't speak to any positions, but it's that type of player that I want to see us sign. Although it doesn't really look like we're going to get that. But overall, I think the club's actually done a pretty decent job in this transfer window. There are still holes, but they've brought in some really quality players and they've filled a lot of gaps that we had in our squad.
Yeah, 100%. It's been a productive window. Like I say, we'll do a full review next week once it's all shut. But, you know, yourself and Connor and I have chatted about this in the group chat that think a lot of this window is about making up for mistakes made in the summer. And I think Waldron and the team have done that. They have addressed areas that, you know, we spoke about. We were overloaded with players in the attacking areas. And we've got a lot more depth in the midfield, in the defence, and also quality. You know, McDonald looks like such a fantastic acquisition. Konak, I do like that both of them have kind of in recent games been subbed off because they got booked in the first half, and Bloomfield thinking they're getting themselves sent off in the if they're allowed any further. But the problem solver, yeah, we've talked about it time and time again. Krastev, I think, was meant to be that because of the profile of player he is. I'm with you. I really like Philip Krastev, but he's not shown enough in an Oxford United shirt to I think for his loan to continue. It's been very sparing glimpses, and also, you know, got to be fair to him, he's also not had an awful lot of chances in an Oxford United shirt, but he's not taken those when they have come his way. Let's chat about, obviously, the games coming up. We've got a couple of 2-match weeks in February, and as you mentioned, Sheffield United at Bramall Lane, the rearranged fixture, and also a trip to the CBS Arena. First, we'll start with Bramall Lane. Sheffield United's record, believe it or not, is worse than ours at the minute, which I know sounds mental. In their last 4 league fixtures, 2 losses, a win and a draw. We're obviously off the back of 2 draws, a win and a loss. But we know the quality that Sheffield United have at their disposal. Chris Wilder, he's a canny operator, and he will be looking at this to frustrate the ever-loving fuck out of Oxford United to get a much-needed 3 points for his Blades.
Yeah, I think frustrating is, like you said, that is the word that describes Tuesday, because it's a difficult place to go to already, and then Chris Wilder is actually a pretty good manager. I think nothing would bring him more joy than to sort of scupper our season. So I don't really have much hope for that game. I think if we'd won today and we were going into it with 2 wins on the bounce, then I would have felt a lot more confident for it. But like, because what momentum we had has sort of just been scuppered, I don't really feel that bright about this fixture. Like their form, you know, it doesn't. I don't know, their form. You don't look at it and think, oh, they're a real threat. But considering where they were at the start of the season, considering where they are now, they have gradually moved their way up. So they are gradually improving under Chris Wilder. So he is definitely a good manager. So I think it will. I just think it'll be a difficult game, and it'll be like a hard place to go to and a hard place to get a result out of. And I mean, we're not winning away in this season, are we? So I highly doubt we're going to get a win on a Tuesday night. But we'll have to see. We'll have to give it a go.
I mean, Bramall Lane is an interesting one because, like you say, Sheffield United, their form has been in patches. They have good patches, they have bad patches, and it kind of just, goes back and forth on that. And like you're right, they've climbed their way away from the relegation zone for now. Because obviously, when we played them at the back at the beginning of the campaign, they were right down there with us, and there were concerns about it. Obviously, it led to a managerial change. So, I think, like we said, Sheffield United can be a really difficult place to go, especially on a Tuesday night, if the game goes ahead, that is. As for the CBS Arena, Coventry City, a lot of people are looking at Coventry and thinking, what's happening here, because their form is, just looking at their last 4 league fixtures, beating Leicester and beating Millwall. If I believe both of those games they came from behind. But recently, losing 2-1 to Norwich, losing 2-1 to QPR. I believe in both their games they also took the lead. They're starting to shake a little bit with all the pressure that is they've been pretty much anointed as a Premier League team for next season. That's starting to apply a lot of pressure to those boys in sky blue, isn't it?
Yeah, I think like the assumption has been for months now, Coventry are going to win the league. They're going to go up regardless. And like you said, I think that's getting to them. Because I think I'm right in saying now that their lead has been wiped out completely. Mm-hmm. I think I'm right in saying, so it was a 10-point lead at one point, and it's now down to 0. And I live quite close to Coventry, so I can speak to the general sense of panic that's starting to build, like in the atmosphere around here. Because they're still top of the league, but like to go from 10 points clear to now only being ahead on goal difference is a huge difference. And like I just for that reason, and for some reason, for having blind stupidity, I still think we're going to get something out of the CBS Arena. I can see it. I can see us scrapping out a 1-0 win or a 2-1 win, and then Matt Bloomfield, racing down the pitch again to that away end. I think that's for me. That's what I see. I mean, I know it's a crime against logic, because they're pretty much building what they assume to be a Premier League squad at this point. They have so much more resources than we do. They have much better form than we do, even if they have. We're talking like they've slipped a bit. They're still top of the league. They've been top of the league. Yeah. Like it seems like for the whole season. So maybe but it's the fact they've gone from 10 points clear to 0 points clear. So I think maybe it's being blown out of proportion. So obviously, like logically, we're not going to get anything from it. But I just got this feeling that it would be the most Oxford thing to do, wouldn't it? Lose to Birmingham, probably maybe lose to Sheffield or get a draw if we're lucky, and then beat Coventry. And then whoever we got next, I can't remember the fixture that's after that. We'll probably lose that one as well. So that's why I've got hope for that. But yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. I've been saying a lot during the season that when teams are sort of starting to go through a rocky patch, they see Oxford come up and they think, brilliant. Well, there we go. That is the stopgap. That's a team we can use to sort of get a win, get a bit more momentum up. It happened so many times this season. It happened when we played Sheffield earlier on in the season. They were so poor. They came to us and then they won. But now we're under new management and we're starting to improve. And we've got a bit of something about us, and we'll hopefully have one more signing in, or a couple more of our signings will be able to start. We look, I think, like a much more dangerous opposition. So I think we can go into that with a well, at least I'll be going into it with a bit of hope. I know other fans might be going here thinking, well, it's just a piss up because we're going to lose 5-0 anyway. But I'm going to go into it thinking somehow thinking, yeah, we can get something out of this. Basically, that's my view of it.
I imagine Wednesday to Friday is going to be a very interesting week for you, surrounded by Coventry fans, and in the build up to that game. And obviously, we hope we get a result, because I'm sure that'll feel bloody brilliant for you to be able to stick it to all your Cov mates.
I will not shut up about it to any of my colleagues, to anyone I know. Can't wait. But I also know if we lose, I'm going to get it. I'm just going to get it in the net. But anyway,
find a cupboard to hide in for a couple of weeks or something. Like that. We mentioned it. We wanted to kind of touch on our situation. Like we said, we've gone from 5 points out of a possible 9 to 5 out of a possible 12. In the absolute worst case scenario, which obviously we do not want, we will be 5 points from a possible 18 by the end of this week. We are still 5 points inside the relegation zone. Better goal difference than West Brom. West Brom are really slipping at this moment in time. Blackburn are right in amongst it, of course. Portsmouth, very, very important win yesterday. I have been positive. I've been, like you, thinking as long as it's mathematically possible, we can get out of this. But our inability, and we said it endless amounts of times under Gary Rowett, to string performances together, results, as we saw at the weekend, fluke goal goes off the backside of one of your wingers on a set piece. You're 1-0 down, and the opposition put up turn their defence into blooming Fort Knox. But there's a real lack of consistency in performance under Matt Bloomfield, under Gary Rowett, and I'm not going to turn on these players, but I am starting to think these players, they've got, a group of these players have got two managers sacked. Been under 3 different head coaches in our time back in the Championship. I'm starting to worry that we can't get out of this situation, Will.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, it is obviously a very worrying situation to be in. I think I'm still hopeful. I mean, I think it's obvious I'm hopeful for, I think we can beat Coventry, so of course I'm going to be hopeful. As long as it's still mathematically possible, whatever. For me, I'm holding on to the fact that I do think that we are making improvements on the Bloomfield. And I think that if we had taken our chances, not just against Birmingham, but also against QPR and against Bristol, if a certain somebody had managed to just stick the ball in the back of the net, we would be in such a better position now. We wouldn't even be having this conversation. So I think for me, that is what is giving me hope that we're 5 points, we're 5 points away from safety, but it's still very fine margins. It's still like the difference between conceding an unlucky goal and taking your chances, and we're creating more chances. We're better at attacking. We now have more attacking intent. I feel, at least. I feel like we have a better chance of actually starting games well, getting back into games. I mean, obviously Birmingham is sort of like evidence to counter that. But I just believe that we're making improvements in the Bloomfield, and once we start taking our chances, if we start taking our chances, if luck starts to go our way a bit, if we start to get just a little bit of run of form, I think that will propel us to be in a much better position. To give us a much better chance of staying up. And also another thing that gives me hope is that the Championship this season has been crazy. We all thought it was going to be really difficult, but every team's been crap. I mean, I know we've been crap. Everyone's been crap. I mean, West Brom going down to League One. Or Leicester City potentially thinking that they're going to get points deducted. It seems to be what some of their fans think. It's just crazy this season. Teams I would say teams are going up and down, but a lot of teams are going down. And there's also on top of that, there's one team that's already guaranteed to be relegated, Sheffield Wednesday, because they're not going to dig themselves out of that hole unless they win every game for the rest of the season. So I think the volatility of everything gives me a bit of hope, because it's not like it's set in stone. These are the 4 teams who are crap and everyone else mid-table. It's like these are the 10 teams who are crap, and let's all scrap it out. And there's going to be points deduction. There's going to be goodness knows what else happens this season. And I think that, coupled with the fact that I think we are making improvements, we have had opportunities to win games on the Bloomfield. If we've just taken our chances, if we just start to take our chances, I think we'll be in a better position. And I think, again, it's that thought, we just need that. Take it game by game. We just need a victory here. We just need a run of form here, and that will help dig us out of our hole. I mean, I'm not oblivious to it. Obviously, it's not great. It's completely crap. I mean, we're second from bottom. The only team below us, is on -7 points. So it's a terrible position to be in. But I think because of the whole situation of the Championship this season, that's what gives me hope that we can still find a way to survive this season. Obviously, and also we're Oxford United, and anything can happen. We haven't come this far to only come this far. We're not going down just yet without a fight. So, let's see what happens.
You're right in the sense that there's a long way to go. Still 17 matches still to be played by Oxford United. And the gap between us and 17th is 9 points. And other than, we've got a better goal difference than a few of those sides in and around us. It's all about taking the opportunities when they come, like you say, because we've squandered so many chances this campaign. We can't keep doing it. We need to put the ball in the onion bag. And, I think we've been relatively defensively all right. It's just we've been toothless up top. Hopefully, some of the new additions can, when Jung Woo, when Donnelly is back and able to contribute, and we'll start to see that. Like you say, there's a long way to go. It's only 5 points, all that kind of stuff. But I think it's it's starting to feel quite real. It's the word Sir Alex Ferguson. It really is squeaky bum time for Oxford United right now.
Yeah, I mean, when I heard like supporters saying in November we're going down, I was just thinking, oh, come off it, it's November. We've still got so long to go. But now that it's January, like you say, it feels more real. It feels more realistic. We're all starting to look at the League One table and wincing when we see the away games that are going to be awaiting us. But yeah, I'm still clinging on to the fact that we are making improvements, and it's just the chances that we need to take. If Stanley Mills had scored against QPR, and if he'd scored against Bristol, and if we'd actually been able to see those games through, we'd have an extra 4 points by now, and we'd be 1 point off safety. In which case, we're thinking, well, we just need a good result here. We need to keep on this momentum, whatever. I think that's what I mean when I say it's fine margins. Like if we just take our chances, we can actually climb out of this position we're in. But yeah, because I think it is starting to feel a bit more realistic now. I'm still hopeful, but I am starting to get a bit more worried than I was, in November when fans were saying in November we're going down. I thought, oh, please just give me a break. But now I am starting to worry about it. But I do still think there's a long way to go, and it's a championship, and it's a crazy season, so anything can happen.
100%. That was all very well said, Will. And I think we'll end it there. Viewers, thank you so much. If you watched all the way through, please, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, we really, really appreciate the like, comment, and subscribe. It helps out massively in the algorithm. And follow myself, Will, and Connor on Twitter for our musings on our football club. And we'll see you next week to review Sheffield United and Coventry, I should say, and then preview another vital midweeker and the FA Cup game against Sunderland. We'll see you later.